Let history speak. In 399 BC, in the heart of Athens, a city renowned for its democracy and intellectual vibrancy, an old man named Socrates stood before a jury of 501 citizens. His fate hung in the balance, for he was on trial for charges that seemed almost absurd: impiety and corrupting the youth. Little did the world know that this trial would not only determine the life of one man, but also have far-reaching implications for the very essence of Western philosophy and democracy. The philosopher and his city. Socrates was no ordinary man. He was a man of humble origins, a stonemason by trade, but his true passion lay in the pursuit of wisdom. He wandered the streets of Athens, engaging in deep conversations with anyone willing to listen. His method was simple yet revolutionary. He asked questions, constantly probing, challenging the assumptions and beliefs of those around him. To modern audiences, he was like a philosophical detective, always on the hunt for the truth. Athens in the 5th century BC was a powerhouse. It was a city-state that had emerged victorious from the Persian Wars, boasting a democratic government that allowed its male citizens to participate in the political process. The city was a hub of culture, with theaters, temples, and a bustling marketplace. But beneath the surface, there were tensions. The Peloponnesian War, a long and brutal conflict between Athens and Sparta, had taken a toll on the city. The war had not only depleted its resources, but also led to a sense of moral and political confusion. Socrates, with his unwavering commitment to truth, was seen as a threat by some. His questions often undermined the authority of the established institutions and the traditional values of the city. He was labeled as a gadfly, a term that implies a persistent irritant. The people in power, the politicians, and the religious authorities found his constant questioning unsettling. They worried that his influence on the youth could lead to a breakdown of the social order. The charges against Socrates were twofold. First, he was accused of impiety, which meant not believing in the gods recognized by the state and introducing new divinities. In ancient Athens, religion was closely intertwined with the state, and to question the gods was seen as a direct challenge to the established order. Second, he was charged with corrupting the youth. His teachings, which encouraged critical thinking and independent thought, were seen as leading the young astray from the traditional values of the city. Socrates' defense was a masterpiece of philosophical argument. He took the stand, facing the jury with calm confidence. He argued that his mission was to make the people of Athens better, to wake them up from their intellectual slumber. He compared himself to a gadfly, stinging the horse of the state to keep it from becoming lazy and complacent. He said that he had been given a divine mission, that the god Apollo had commanded him to pursue wisdom and to encourage others to do the same. But his defense was not well received by the jury. Many of the jurors were already biased against him. They saw him as a troublemaker, a threat to the stability of the city. The trial became a battle between the old guard, who wanted to preserve the traditional values, and the new ideas that Socrates represented. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom grew. The jurors were divided, some believing in Socrates' innocence, while others were determined to see him punished. The turning point in the trial came when Socrates was asked to propose his own punishment. Instead of offering a concession, he suggested that he should be rewarded with free meals in the Prytaneum, a place where the city's heroes were honored. This was seen as an act of arrogance by the jury. It was as if he was mocking the very process of the trial. The jurors, already frustrated with his unyielding attitude, were now enraged. The vote for the punishment was a close one. By a narrow margin, the jury decided that Socrates should be sentenced to death. The news spread like wildfire through the city. People were shocked. Some believed that the verdict was a miscarriage of justice, while others thought that it was a necessary step to protect the city from the subversive ideas of Socrates. In modern times, we can draw parallels between Socrates' situation and the challenges faced by free thinkers today. In many societies, those who question the status quo, who challenge the established norms, often face opposition. They are seen as threats to the stability of the system, just as Socrates was in ancient Athens. The trial of Socrates serves as a reminder of the importance of freedom of thought and the dangers of suppressing new ideas. As the days passed after the verdict, Socrates remained in prison. His friends and followers visited him, urging him to escape, but Socrates refused. He believed in the rule of law, even if it meant his own death. He argued that by escaping, he would be breaking the laws of the city, and that would be a betrayal of his own principles. He was determined to face his fate with dignity. The stage was now set for the final act of this tragic drama. Socrates was awaiting his execution, and the city of Athens was about to witness a profound moment in its history. The world watched as the fate of one man would become a symbol of the eternal struggle between truth and authority. The final hours and the legacy. Socrates' final hours were filled with a sense of calm and resignation. He spent his last days in prison, surrounded by his closest friends and students, engaging in deep philosophical discussions. It was as if he was using his remaining time to impart his wisdom one last time. Plato, his most famous student, was by his side, recording their conversations, which would later become some of the most important works in Western philosophy. The prison cell was a simple, bare-walled room. There was a small cot, and a jug of water sat in the corner. But the atmosphere was far from gloomy. Socrates, with his characteristic wit and humor, continued to challenge his friends' assumptions, even in the face of death. He talked about the nature of the soul, the immortality of the mind, and the importance of living a virtuous life. As the day of his execution approached, a sense of sadness and despair filled the hearts of his friends. They could not believe that such a great man was about to be taken from them. But Socrates remained steadfast. He told them that death was not to be feared, for it was either a dreamless sleep or a journey to another world where he could continue his pursuit of wisdom. The executioner arrived with the cup of hemlock, a poisonous drink. Socrates looked at the cup with a calm expression. He thanked the executioner, and then, without hesitation, drank the hemlock. His friends watched in horror as the poison began to take effect. Socrates' body began to tremble, and his speech became slurred. But even in his final moments, he remained composed. He lay down on the cot, and as the last of his strength faded, he said his final words: "Crato, we owe a cock to Asclepius. Pay it, and do not forget." Asclepius was the god of medicine, and it was a custom to offer a sacrifice to him after recovering from an illness. Socrates' words were interpreted as a sign that he saw death as a release from the illness of life. The news of Socrates' death spread throughout Athens and beyond. People were deeply affected by his passing. In Athens, there was a sense of guilt and regret. Many began to realize that they had made a grave mistake in sentencing him to death. The city that had prided itself on its democracy had failed one of its greatest thinkers. The legacy of Socrates, however, was far-reaching. His method of questioning, known as the Socratic method, became a cornerstone of Western education. It encouraged students to think critically, to challenge assumptions, and to seek the truth. Philosophers after him, such as Plato and Aristotle, built on his ideas, shaping the course of Western philosophy for centuries to come. In a modern context, the trial and death of Socrates can be compared to the struggles of whistleblowers and activists today. They often face persecution for speaking out against injustice, just as Socrates did for challenging the status quo in Athens. The story also highlights the importance of a fair and just legal system. In Athens, the democratic process failed to protect a man who was only seeking the truth. It serves as a warning to modern societies about the dangers of mob rule and the need for a system that can protect the rights of individuals, even those who are unpopular. The impact of Socrates' death on the city of Athens was profound. It led to a period of self-reflection. The Athenians began to question the nature of their democracy and the limits of free speech. They realized that in order to truly be a democratic society, they needed to be more tolerant of different ideas. As time passed, Socrates became a symbol of intellectual courage and the pursuit of truth. His story was told and retold, inspiring generations of thinkers and activists. The trial and death of Socrates were not just the end of a man's life. They were the beginning of a new era in the history of human thought. The city of Athens, once again, had to adapt and evolve. It learned from its mistakes, and in the following centuries, it continued to be a center of learning and culture. But the memory of Socrates remained, a constant reminder of the importance of standing up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. In the end, the story of Socrates' final trial is a story of courage, sacrifice, and the power of ideas. It shows that even in the darkest of times, the pursuit of truth can never be extinguished. It is a story that continues to resonate with us today, reminding us of our own responsibility to question, to think, and to fight for justice. If you like this story, please follow, like, and share it.